Hello, today is Sunday, November 18th, 2018, and we're going to start talking a little bit more about the It Takes a Guild cardigan. The directions for the pocket went out this week, so I can't wait to see people start working on their pockets. I think that you're going to really love them. Hello, Kai Lady. Hi, Scott. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving this week. I will do another live stream on Wednesday. There won't be any new instructions coming out this week, but that gives me time to focus on doing some other videos. I've got a backlog that people have been requesting, so this week's going to be a video week, and I need to knit on my sweater. Some of you guys are way ahead of me. So hello, good morning or good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock in California. The air is a little bit more clear today, although the fires are still happening. I think we can breathe a little bit better. Let's see. Loanna, Diana, hello Diana, Kathy, Carol, Leanne, Roger Abernathy, hello Roger, Sung Pak, Pamela Jean, Cindy McBride, Kathy Trojaska. I don't know how to say that. I wish you guys could talk and I could hear you. That would be so much more fun. Someday I'm going to figure out how to have a live virtual classroom and maybe we could all talk together and see each other. I think that's kind of the direction that I'm going. It would be very cool. Yeah, don't forget to give me thumbs up. And hello, we got quite a few people on here. Everybody's ready. Hello, Delise, Diana, Renee. Yay, okay. So I have a few questions. So the pocket went out this week, right? And it's interesting. I think you're going to love it. I can't wait to see some people knitting on the pocket and see your reaction to it. So I have some questions. Let's go through the questions first. I didn't cut these up into little segments this time, but I think I can get them all. So this is from, let's see, where am I starting? Post 203, I think, is the one. So Cat5TX 4 days ago said she was confused about page 40. Where do we start the hip increases with respect to the pocket? Now, some of you may have noticed that the pocket in the directions I have you start at the waist. Now, it's personal preference. That's where I like my pockets. So if you want your pockets higher, you can start them above the waist. If you want your pockets lower, you can start them below the waist. The directions are exactly the same no matter where you start them. It's kind of like a floating part of the front of the cardigan. You could start it anywhere as long as you continue the underlying design. So if you're having hip increases, it depends on how many hip increases you want to add. So let me talk a little bit about that. I mentioned it last time, but I'll talk again this time. When we did the bust circumference, when you measured your actual bust on your body, and then we talked about adding 4 inches of ease. I think just about everybody added 4 inches of ease. So let's say you start out with 40, and then that gives you 44 for your garment. That gives you enough room to move around, raise your arms, and things aren't binding. And this is a cardigan, so most likely it's going to be going over something else. When you measure the lower part of your body, where the lower part of the sweater is going to fit, so don't measure the widest part of your hips if the sweater's not going over the widest part of your hips. Measure the widest part of your body, your lower body, where the sweater will be covering you. Add 1 to 1.5 inches to that body measurement. So let's say that your hips are 44, or let's say 46, and your bust was 40. So now we have a 44 circumference for our sweater, but your hips are 46. That's 2 inches bigger. And we want to add another inch for a little bit of ease so the sweater doesn't cling to your hips when you turn. So now we have 47. That's 3 inches greater than the top of your sweater. So where there's two scenarios we'll talk about. Scenario one is if you did waist decreasing, and you decreased 4 inches. So now we have a total of 7 inches that we'll need to increase out for the hips. 4 of those are already built in for the bottom part of the waist shaping. So you still end up with 3 more inches that you need to increase for your hips. So what you would do is you take your stitch gauge. Let's say your stitch gauge is 5 stitches to the inch, and you want to add 3 more inches. So that's 15 stitches. So in the next few inches of your knitting, and I wouldn't do it for more than 4 inches or 5, it depends on how big you are overall, you're going to add in those 15 stitches, and you can continue adding them in the same places where you did your waist increases. Just continue down those lines, but you want to make sure you fit them in. So 15 stitches, I would round it to 16. That's divisible by 4. You have your 4 places where you're adding your increases. Just continue in those lines and make sure the increases fit into the next 3 or 4 inches. You don't want to add them too severely or your sweater will go out like this, and I don't think that's very attractive. So does that answer about the hip increases? I think that's pretty good. We can talk more about it too if people want to. So that's the one for Cat 5TX on Ravelry. The next one is from Floristine, and she says, where would the top spot be for measuring the back waist length? The top spot is right here, where your neck and your shoulder come together. I would measure from that point down, and that's equivalent to that bump on the back of your neck. You know how you measure your back sweater length from the bump here down? That's the same spot, only in the side of your neck. So you could actually use that bump instead if you want to. And I tie a string around your waist. Everybody's waist is different. Whoops, my chair is okay. So let's look. So if I just put my hands here, that's my waist, okay? Goes in there. Also, if you bend, wherever you bend, that's your waist. Or you can tie a string around, and where the string goes, naturally, where the string just goes, that's your waist too. So those are the ways that you can figure out where your natural waist is. Also, you could use other clothing that you have that has a waist in it and see where it fits you, where it feels comfortable, and measure down to that point. Okay, let me make sure I answered the whole question. Okay, now you could, yes, and she says, thinking it would be helpful in sanity checking my waist length from underarm to waist by subtracting the armhole depth. Yes, because remember we measured the armhole depth from this point also. We measured the armhole depth down to here. So if you measure from here to your waist and from your underarm to your waist, if you add underarm to the waist and add back your armhole depth, they should be an equal number or close, within an inch. It's a soft number. Okay, let's go to the next question. Kelly Trachkowski, question, can I just add hip increases in front to accommodate large belly and flat bottom? Yep, you can do that. You can do that. Let's see if I missed any others. Okay, good. All right. If the waist shaping increases happen inside the pockets, will it affect how the pocket fronts lay? Will they lay flat? They'll lay flat. In fact, let me show you on my sweater here in process. So here is where my pocket is going to come in. I'm working on the lining still. Can you see my waist increases right here? Here's my waist decreases coming down here, and here are my waist increases. They'll be under the pocket. You do not need to worry about the pocket front. You do not need to do increases in the pocket front. This fabric will naturally go towards the side of the body, and the pocket is on the front, and it will be absolutely perfect. Let me show you on the finished cardigan what that looks like. I wish it were lighter fabric. Okay, here is the pocket. Do you see how it lays flat there? Now, inside, there's waist. You can't really see it. There it is. There's the waist shaping. Can you see the waist shaping right there? Those increased stitches. And it does not affect the pocket front. The pocket front is going to go straight down the front of the sweater. You do not want increases in the front of the pocket, other than these that create the diagonal line. Okay, let me move to the paper questions, and I'll come back here again. This is from Gone Writing. When adding in the cable to the left and right front sections, how many stitches away from the edge stitch do you start the pattern? I have allowed 3 stitches on my chart, but there is still time to change that if necessary. Also, did I read somewhere that the first and last stitches of each row must be knit stitches? Now, Gone Writing, I'm assuming that you're talking about the cables up here on the front. And I put 2 stitches between my cable and the edge, but you can put 3 if you want. So if you look at the charts in the tutorial, they already show the placement of the cable away from the edge of the fabric. And you'll see that there are 2 knits between the cable, or two columns of stockinette stitches, not knits. 2 columns of stockinette stitches between the cable and the very front of the cardigan. So here again, this is my sweater in process. So up here, where this cable comes in, there's 2 columns of stockinette stitches between the cable and the front of the sweater. And in between those 2 is where we're going to be picking up to add on the button band. Now, if you're talking about the pocket, yes, I did leave 3 stitches between the edge of the pocket. Here's the pocket, and there are 3 columns of there's 3 columns of stockinette stitch there. Now, there's no special edging on it, because what I did is I allowed for the first column of stockinette stitches to curl under, and that gives a very nice edge to the pocket. You don't need to do any garter stitch or ribbing or anything on there. It looks just fine, just like that, and gives a very nice finished effect and goes well with the cable coming down the pocket. So there's 3 stitches here, and then I allowed 2 stitches on this side, and you can see that there's only 1 remaining on the face, because that's where I picked up for the button band. Okay, next question. Hi, Suzanne, is it possible to have our front cables curve and become the edge of the pocket? Yes, it is. But what you would have to do, see, there's a distance here. See the distance here, these stitches in between? You would have to actually start your pocket up here and curve this cable over. I actually thought about doing that, but it's a little bit more complicated. And it takes some engineering and thinking to do it. But if you want to tackle that, you can. I would still continue this cable down the front, and I would just have it shift off. It would have to see how this is going. So it would have to be up here. It'd have to shift off up here and curve down here to come down here like that. And in this sweater, we're going to continue the cable down the ribbing a little bit more. Okay, next question. This is from Sweet Jane 11. Hi, Suzanne. I've been following the recalculated stitches per inch for my size, and that is 5 stitches per inch, size 46. Would I follow that size for the waist shaping decreases? I have been checking my gauge here and there, and it's actually 6 stitches per inch consistently, but I've stayed with the recalculated number of 5 stitches per inch. My swatch is 5.5. My sweater fits me wonderfully. Thank goodness. Also, I'm trying to decide on which waist shaping method to use. Would you please go over method number 2, and how would like us to divide the front and back areas into fourths and placing markers at the 1/4 and 3/4 spaces? Would we use our side markers as a guide? Thank you for all that you do. The first part of the question, Once we get past the underarms and you've cast on those extra stitches under the underarms, we don't need to worry about your stitch count anymore. If your sweater fits you, don't worry about your stitch count. Just continue knitting down, and then you would do your shaping, your waist shaping based upon your stitch gauge. So if you're getting 6 stitches to the inch or 5.5 or 5, you would use that stitch count in determining removing the 4 inches. The method 1 and method 2, method 1 is lining them up straight down the side here. Method 2 is dividing them into the sweater. So on method 2, yes, I used my side markers as a guide. Here's my side marker down here. Used to be up under the arm, but it's moving down as I stitch. Here's my waist shaping marker. So you can see that's about 1/4 inch of the distance right there from the side marker to my waist marker. And so that's 1/4 of the distance across the back. And then I counted how many stitches that is. For me, it's actually, I think it was 27 stitches. And then I counted 27 stitches this way. And I put a marker on the front. Whoops, I dropped some stitches. Let me get them on here. Okay, saved, yay. That's how I place those markers. And in this fabric, you can see the increases and decreases better. I really like how they look. So these are the decreases going down, the waist shaping decreases. And then below here, where I've started my pocket lining, those are the increases right here. You see those? They actually look very nice, and it looks, I would say it's like couture knitting. It's very, very elegant looking. Okay, next question. Suzanne, this is from Demetria. I have a couple of questions. About the combining row on the new PDF, why would we need to distribute the extra stitches added to the cables over the whole width of the pocket and not just over the width of the lining under the cable panel? Did I misunderstand? The reason that I have you do that is because I plan on you continuing the cable down into the ribbing. So when you do the combining row, here at the bottom of the pocket, I wish you could see this, but let me turn this light on. Oh, that helps, doesn't it? Okay, so when you do the combining row across here, the bottom of this pocket, you have more stitches on the pocket front than the pocket lining. And the reason that we have more stitches on the pocket front is because of the cables and compensating for how much space the cables require. For example, this might be 8 stitches in the cable over 1 inch, and it would be only 5 stitches in the stockinette over 1 inch. So there's 3 extra stitches. If you want to continue the cable down into the ribbing, if you decrease those 3 stitches right here, you don't have any stitches to continue the cable into the ribbing. You can, if you want, you can decrease them right underneath the cable. Yes, that's a possibility, but then that would interrupt your design here. And as I said last time, I have a big pet peeve. I do not like it when a design comes down and abruptly stops and the ribbing does not blend into it, like it's 2 completely different, unrelated fabrics, and you'll see that a lot. I like my cables to come down, and you can see how the cable legs just came right down into the ribbing. Same thing over here. And I calculate it, I plan it that way. It's not an accident. So if you do your decreases right here, you can't do this. Whereas if you do them across here, it's invisible. Nobody's going to notice. So that answers part 1 of her questions. Part 2 is to make the pocket deeper. Do I continue with the lining another inch and then start the fronts? This will make my pocket wider besides making it deeper. Yes, it would. And it just depends on how much space you have on the front of your sweater, how wide you want your pocket to be. So for example, on this sweater, my side, the middle of my underarm is right here. So you can see the pocket, there's a couple of inches between the side and the underarm is about here, where let me hold it like this. So you can see that between this edge of the pocket and where the side marker would be, there's a couple of inches. So you have space to make your pocket wider if you want to make it deeper, because yes, it will be wider. So your diagonal will come out more. Or conversely, if you want it deeper, you could start with fewer stitches up here. So like when we were talking about the cable coming down from here, if you start your pocket up an inch here, you would have fewer stitches that you put on the holding needle, so that by the time you got down to here, it would blend into here. You can chart this out. This is chartable because you're making an increase every right side row. So you can chart that and you can figure out, just work backwards and figure out where you need to start it up here. Or if you've already started this part and you want to make it longer, just make sure the side of the pocket's not wrapping around to the back of your sweater. Your limitation is where the side seam is. Once you come out to the side, I don't think you're going to want your pocket wider than that, because then it will start interfering with the back of your sweater. Coming right to the side seam is totally doable and fashionable and looks great. So that's that one. She has one more question. I have enough cables, and maybe I should just add one line of 2 intarsia knit stitches flanked by 1 or 2 purls to the pocket edge. Would I need to compensate for flare? Yeah, it would just be 1 stitch though. I think 1 stitch would be enough. You don't want the fabric lining to be puckered inside your pocket. That doesn't look good. Believe me, I've tried it. I did that one time. It does not look good. In making this pocket, I've had a lot of prototypes. I've knit it quite a few times, and I've found the places that need to be fixed, and I think it's pretty good where it is right now. So the next question is, Suzanne, I'm having trouble visualizing in finishing the pockets why the pocket front will have more stitches than the lining, so that when combining, you will have to combine 2 stitches of the pocket front with 1 stitch of the pocket lining for each of the extra stitches. Could you please show us? Thanks, Amy. I just did that. So that's the same answer. If we took this pocket apart, we could see that the pocket, if we counted the stitches, we would see there's more stitches here than on the stockinette stitch fabric underneath it. I think I need to coin some new terminology. I think it should be stitch equivalence. So for the stitch equivalence, let's say this is 40 stitches here, and you have 2 cables that are 1 inch apart, and each of the cables uses 3 more stitches than its stockinette equivalent. So you have 6 extra stitches here. So if it's, just say it's 40. In stockinette, you would need 34 stitches to make the same width of fabric. So you want the 2 pieces of fabric to be the same width. Think about sewing. You want your pocket lining to be the same width as the pocket front. If one is bigger than the other, you will have puckers, right? So we don't want puckers. We want the pocket to be flat. See how it lays so nice? And if we look at the lining on the inside, see, you can't even tell where it is. Whoops, that's because that's not the inside of the sweater. Here's the inside of the sweater. Do you see how it just lays so nice? Do you see that? That's because the lining is the same size as the front of the cable. This is where we connect the little purl bumps here. See how there's no puckering? There's no puckering here. That's because they're the same size. So what we need to concentrate is the size of the fabric, not the number of stitches. The number of stitches need to fit together. If you have 40 on one piece of fabric and 34 on the other, then somehow you need to compensate those 6 stitches in, and I do that by working 2 of the pocket stitches with 1 lining stitch at distributed intervals, so they're evenly distributed, and that makes the fabric lay nice and smooth. Okay, we're almost done with these questions, and I'll come to you guys here. Let me turn this light off. Okay, so this is from Libby Lou 01. Could you show the setup, including picking up stitches for the pocket, and show how the sweater is arranged on your lap to start? What she wants to know is, once you've knitted the pocket lining and you're ready to start the pocket front, she wants to know, how do you put the sweater on your lap to orient it to start it? So what I've asked you to do is I say, okay, put your sweater right side up. This is right side up with the front facing up, okay? And the neck towards you. This is my neck. And the linings away from you on your lap. So it would be like this. But this part is going to be towards my knees, and this is going to be towards my waist on my lap. Then I can see that I have my right pocket stitches right here, ready to be picked up. I've got the loops on my right pocket right here. This is the right side of the sweater coming down. I should steam it so it lays flat. This is the right side. This is my right shoulder. It actually will fit on my body just like this, just as if you were wearing it, but you're going to lay it on your lap like this. So then these are the stitches that you're going to start working with. Does that help? Okay, so let me think. I think there's one more question here, and then I can come to you guys. This one is from Red Rose Knitter. When knitting cables, some of the stitches get distorted. Do you have some suggestions for making the cable stitches more even? Thanks for helping all of us become better knitters. If it's in the row that you just worked, you can pull on the yarn, the working yarn, and even up those stitches. If it's rows below, for example, let's say that you've got some uneven stitches here, I use a tapestry needle and I futz with them. And I just move the yarn around till they look the way I want them to look. And then once you block it, they'll stay that way. They won't come undone. So usually if I have something, right before I block my sweater, I look it over real good and see if there's any areas where I need to adjust individual stitches. And if there are, I take my tapestry needle to them, just the point, or a knitting needle, and I move the yarn around. I pull it this way and that way to even out the size of the stitches if there's uneven stitches, and then I block it. And once it's blocked, they're not going to ever come undone. They'll stay very pretty for you, okay? So let's go to the questions from the live streaming. Let's see what we've got here. Let me go up to the top and scroll down, look for questions. Hello, everybody. I see lots of new people on here. Okay, let's see. Question. You guys are so nice. Thank you. Very nice people. Okay, can I just add hip increases to the front? Well, I answered that one. Okay, we did that one. Greetings, first time. I love the work you're doing. Grateful. If the waist shaping increases happen inside the pockets, won't affect the pockets. The fronts will lay flat. They'll be good. Susan Marie said that answered her question. Great. And this says, oh, hello, Marlene. CR Puro Vita 2. Yes, this is it takes a guild pattern. She worked with me through the first and second rendition of it live at my house many years ago. Scott says, what is the depth of the pocket? Natural waist for me is at 20 inches. Total length should be 27 inches, but remove 3 inches from the 20 to accommodate ribbing at the bottom. The total depth of the pocket is 7 inches. So if you know the length you want your sweater and your ribbing's going to be 3 inches, then measure 7 inches up from that, and that's where you'll start your pocket. Now, let's say you're making a really short jacket and you still want to have pockets. So you do the same thing. You figure out where is the ribbing, how much ribbing are you going to have, 2 inches, 3 inches, then the 7 inches for the pocket, and then that's the top of the pocket. That's where you're going to put those stitches on hold, okay? Let's see. Bonnie says her video stream is very fuzzy and pixelated. That might have to do with your internet speed, but I'm not an expert. Don't take my word for that. let's see, maybe can you rewatch? You can rewatch this later too, and you can download it. Susan Marie, is there an advantage to method 2 compared to method 1 of way shaping? Method 2 is my preference. If you hold on just a second, I'll go get a sweater and show you method 1, what it looks like. Hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, here I am. This is a sweater. This is my own design. I love it. Isn't that pretty? This is the mermaid mesh lace stitch pattern. And because it has this beautiful stitch pattern, you can't really add way shaping to it without interrupting the stitch pattern. And I didn't want to interrupt the stitch pattern. So I did my way shaping on the side. And let me show you what it looks like. Here's the side of the sweater. Right here. And you'll see that it has a significant curve in and curve out. Do you see that? I don't like that. Do you see how this part right here? I do not like that. And I didn't want to make the sweater any longer, so I only had a certain amount of inches to deal with the way shaping. Do you see how it looks like a hip, a bend out? Do you see it bending out there? And it does that on my body. I don't like that. It looks minimal in this picture, but on my body, believe me, it's not minimal. So I really prefer, when doing the way shaping, if you do it, let me turn the light back on here so you can see this sweater. If you do it, I'll show you the back because you can see the way shaping better. See the way shaping coming down there, coming in and going out, looks like an hourglass. Can you see that? But if you turn it sideways and we put it right on the way shaping, it doesn't do anything dramatic. It's very subtle because it's only one stitch at a time. When you divide it into fourths, you're only dealing with one increase or one decrease on each of the fourths. When you're working on the side like this, you're going to have two increases or two decreases right next to each other at the seam. They're very closely related. See how it goes out right there? I don't like that. It's right here, right here. I just really don't like that. And so you can see my increases and decreases along the seam, keeping it in pattern. That was the only option. I think I would have been better off not having any way shaping in this pattern. I learned a lesson on this. Also, do you see how I made the ribbing go right into the design? Remember when I said my pet peeve is ribbing that is not related to the design? Do you see how I did that? That takes planning, and I do that. I plan my ribbing so that it matches, and it's the little details like that that make you a master knitter. So let's look at some more questions here. S.K. Hoyt, on page 41 of the PDF, the setup row for the pocket front is a right side row, but on the cable charts, the setup row is a wrong side row. You can still do knit front and back for those increases, yes. Or because they're placed in where the purl bumps would be, so it will look fine. Or you can use other increases if you want. It's personal preference. Okay, where did you get your big safety pin? Oh, yes, I love those. You're very observant. I have no idea where I got them. You know, I'm one of those people that I like to collect knitting things, and I probably got them at who knows, a yard sale but I love these. I like these way better than the ones that have the hook sticking out like that, because these don't catch on my knitting anywhere. There's nothing sticking out. The ones that have that hook that goes like this, they catch on my knitting. I don't like those. I'd rather use a spare needle than use those. And I do use spare needles a lot. Okay. Just having fun. Excuse me. I'll be wanting to make the cardigan longer after the pocket instead of going directly to the ribbing. Will you be addressing that? Yes, well, I'll talk about that with the ribbing. I was going to include the ribbing in this week, but I think the pocket is enough just understanding it because it's a lot of information. And I actually have a ton of information to give you about ribbing too, because we're going to plan our ribbing. We're not just going to go to default knit to purl to ribbing. I'm going to give you a lot of options, and we'll talk about how do you plan your ribbing so everything fits in. Okay, that'll be next time. Leora Golem, regarding the cables going into the ribbing, I'm doing 3 simple cables on each side. They're 3x3s. How do I get them blended? Well, ribbing does not, that's a great question. Super awesome question. Ribbing does not have to be knit to purl to. Ideally, the job of ribbing is to keep the fabric from curling up at the bottom. Stockinette stitch wants to curl up at the bottom, down at the top, and back on the sides, correct? So the job of ribbing is to keep the fabric going down and to counteract the curl that stockinette wants to do. So in order for the ribbing to work, it needs to have about the same number of purls as knits, although maybe you could even have 1/3 purls, 2/3 knits, but you need to have combinations of knits and purls like seed stitch, garter stitch, 2x2 ribbing, 1 ribbing. Those fabrics all lay flat, The reason they lay flat is because there are a mixture of knits and purls. So we can use any fabric that has a mixture of knits and purls for ribbing. And that's a whole lesson unto itself, and that's what we're going to do next time. And I think you're going to learn a whole lot from it, and it's going to open your eyes to lots of opportunities in the future. Bonnie Davis says, where'd you go? I just moved it up and I lost your... Where'd it go? Okay, Bonnie Davis. I accidentally forgot to place a couple of purl bumps on the edge of the lining. Will that create a problem? No. So what you'll do, I did too. I forgot one too, and I'll show you. And I'll show you my big oops on my sweater. I made a big oops. Oops. Okay, so here we go. Here is my lining. Over here, there's my purl bumps. Can you see the purl bumps? See them? And right there, see there's no purl bump? There's a purl bump here. Can you see it? No purl bump, purl bump. So I know one's missing there because there's a big gap. So you know how I told you to put your removable stitch markers in the purl bumps? You'll just put a removable stitch marker in that spot where the purl bump should have been. This is how I put the removable stitch markers in the purl bumps. I just pick up the bump that's on the edge of the fabric and put it on my marker. Now it's marked. So when I want to lift that up onto the needle, I just lift it up and put it on the needle and do an SSK or knit 2 together, depending on what the directions say. Does that help you? Okay, Veronica, will there be a specific video on the rest of the pocket? I have really thought about that. Veronica, that's a good question. This is my original pocket design. And now I have published it 3 times with 3 different sweaters. I have a sweater that's knit bottom up, that I have the version of this pocket bottom up, and this sweater is being published with that. And no, it's just the 2 times. The other one was a personal pattern that I didn't publish. If I make a YouTube video of the whole pocket construction, then it's no longer my personal design. And I have to really think about this. Yes, I want people to be able to use it, but I want people to say that they got it from me because it's my design. I've done a lot of research on pockets, and I've never seen another one like this. You'll see pockets that are straight down, and you'll see pockets that are just diagonal. This is a hybrid pocket, and I've never seen another one. So I think what I might do is I may publish it as a standalone pattern, pattern of the pocket worked bottom up and top down as a pattern on Ravelry, and then I may put a video with that linked in the pattern. I don't know. I have to think about it. I would like to share it. Yes, I'm sharing it with you. And yes, I would like everybody to do this pocket, but at the same time, it's my personal design. Different than designing a sweater. Designing a sweater is easy, but engineering something completely new and different is not so easy. And it took me a lot of time to figure it out. So I got to think about it. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's see. KR, are you going to do a video on how to blend cables into your, yes, I will. I'll do videos on how to blend cables into ribbing, and it won't necessarily be 2x2 ribbing. You'll see. I think you'll really like the cable portion. Susan Powell, good morning. Hello, Carolyn. I'm confused on new instructions. Will you do a video? Also, I don't have bumps on edge because of alternating skeins, but I did find some underneath. Are those the ones you're talking about? Yes, let me show you mine. She's talking about the bumps on the edge where you're rotating skeins. The rotating the skeins does cover them up from the front edge. So here's my side where I'm rotating skeins. So the front, you can't see the purl bumps, but from the back you can. They're right there. Do you see them all? So you're just going to pick up those purl bumps. You got it. This is from Kimmy Knot. The extra stitches I have are 4, so I need to put it into my cable area. Does that mean I should increase by 4? But what do I do? Knit the extras either inside of my cable and then do the cable stitches. Kimmy Knot, you need to go back and read the directions up at the beginning about the cable. So when you added your stitches in at the top of the pocket, remember we increased some stitches for the cable, correct? So if you increased 4 stitches up at the top of the pocket, what I'm talking about is when you are going and here's the top of the pocket. When you start your pocket front, you get to the cable area, we're going to have the cable, and I have you increase those stitches, correct, to compensate for your cable flare. When you get back down to the bottom of the pocket in the same area and where you have this cable, you will have more stitches on the pocket front than the compensating fabric underneath. Then this is where I was talking about stitch equivalency. So you will have, let's say you have 7 inches width at the bottom of your pocket. I'm just making that up. Everybody's might be different. So let's say the bottom of your pocket front is 7 inches. You need 7 inches of lining fabric underneath to connect it with. And the 7 inches of the front may have a different number of stitches than the 7 inches of the lining fabric underneath. And whatever the difference is, you need to subtract those by knitting 2 together on the front as you connect it to the pocket lining. And I wouldn't necessarily do it directly under the cable because then it will distort your cable if you want to carry it down into the ribbing below. Okay, there you go. And Foil says she loves my library. Thank you. I love my library too. Kimmy Knot. It's Kim from the UK. I'm using a 16-stitch cable area, then stockinette either side. Okay, Carol Corcoran. I didn't understand in the instructions to have 2 knit stitches on edge before starting the cable. I knit 1 stitch edge, then started my cable. You are not going to have trouble with the button band. She's concerned about what you'll end up with is you'll end up with 2 stitches before your cable. It will look just fine. You're going to be just fine. Where's my cable? Here it is. Okay, light. See where I have 1 column of stitches before the button band? You'll have 2, and it'll be just fine. You're good. Excellent. And let's see, are you going to do a video on how to blend cables? Yes, I already talked about that. Could you show us how to knit the pocket front to the lining when you get to the edge? It's on page 41, titled row 2. Thank you. What you're going to do, I'll make a video. Okay, I'll make a video on connecting a front fabric to a back fabric. That's a compromise. I'll make a video on how to connect to those purl bumps, but I'm not going to make a video of the whole pocket constructions. So you'll be able to just use that and the information that I give you on that on how to connect the purl bumps between the lining and the pocket front. Does that sound okay? Okay. And then says Carol Brasino. Hi, would you explain how to attach the underarm to continue knitting the body? Thanks. When you have your sleeve up here, when you're dividing your sweater between the sleeves and the body, you put all these sleeve stitches on waste yarn, or I put them on a cable needle, just the cable portion of the needle, and then you pick up stitches under the arm. I mean, I'm sorry, you do not pick up stitches. You cast on stitches under the arm. You cast on new stitches, and you can use, I used the knitted on cast on method, the thumb loop or backward thumb cast on also works fine for casting on stitches under the arm. You do not want to use the cable cast on, it's too tight. You want this area to be stretchy, like the surrounding fabric. Cable cast on has no stretch to it, so you don't want to use that cast on. Okay, knit the pockets, cable flare variants, Germany, so you knit the pocket front lining, knitting the body. Could you go over how to figure out where to start the front cables? I'm doing front cable C, 6 stitches per inch at size 38. Seems like my fronts won't be wide enough. I have yet to cast on. Your fronts will be wide enough because what happens is, here we are. Here's the top of the neck. Here's where you cast on. And then every time you do your increases, you're going to increase on this side and this side of the raglan, and the same on the back. Here's the back raglan. So that's 4 increases, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that creates the sleeve and part of the body. Do you see how these stitches are coming straight down? This light's too bright for this fabric. Okay, so you can see how this fabric is coming straight down from that raglan. The raglan goes at a 45-degree angle. And then the new fabric for the sleeve is coming out of this side of the raglan. So every time you make an increase, you're adding a stitch to the sleeve and you're adding a stitch to the body. 2 increases, 1 on the sleeve side of that raglan, 1 on the body side. Same thing on the back. This is the back of the sweater. Here's the sleeve. Every time you come to the raglan, you make an increase on this side and an increase on this side, and you can see how the new fabric grows out from the raglan line. Now on the front, you also have that front center stitch, which is that one stitch that you start with right up here. There's one stitch on this side of the raglan, right? That one stitch. That is going to become your front V-neck, and it grows out like this. So see how the stitches are all going down from that V-neck and down from the raglan. So every time you make an increase here and an increase on the V-neck edge, this fabric gets wider and wider and wider until you finish your V-neck, which mine finished right here. And then that's all the fabric I need for the front. It's coming down like this because I'm going to have my 3-inch button band here. So this is all I need for the front right there. And here's my sleeve out here. See how that's fitting me? So just follow along, just trust it, and just don't miss the V-neck increases. A lot of people miss those. They don't understand that part. You can go on a Ravelry group. We have a huge discussion about that, and you can read all about it. Okay. My video says, let's see, oops, it jumped up. Cable legs, we should plan for that. How do we plan that? Carol Corcoran. Okay, my video keeps, could you go over how to figure out where to start the cable? Okay, I did that. The sweaters, thank you. Also, you've talked about cable legs running into the bottom of the ribbing. We should plan for that. How do we plan for that? That's the next lesson. Don't do your ribbing yet. You're going to stop at the bottom of the pocket, okay? And let's see, I get your point with the personal design, maybe just something on the joining. Yes, I'll join the fabric. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Hi, Demetria. Andrea, that would be great. I'd pay for just the pocket in both directions on top of this class. Yeah, I think people would. The pocket is very cool. And once you knit this sweater with that pocket, you'll have a better appreciation of it and how much work went into it. Can you do a video on measurements and schematics? Because I want to become a knitwear designer and I don't know where to put the measurements on the schematic. Thanks. I do have a video on measuring and schematics. Just go to my YouTube videos. I'll link it to this one when I'm done here. Okay. Don't forget to show us the boo-boo. Oh, yes. Dying of curiosity. Okay, I did make a big boo-boo in the back cable, in the intarsia cable. Let me see. Yep, I'm showing it to you right there. So let's see if you can see it. Let me turn the light on. Whoops, that's too bright. Okay. So do you see how in this cable, the cable crossings rotate? So this one's going on top, then this one goes on top, then this one on top, and they rotate like lattice work, right? Now look at this cable. They're all going in the same direction. Do you see that? I was brain dead. The whole repeat of that cable. So when I'm done with my sweater, I'm going to cut this one and this one, and this one and fix them. And I'll make a video on that. In fact, I already have a video on how to cut cables and fix them. But all the rest of it is fine. But see, I make mistakes too. Everybody makes mistakes. But the thing is, I know I can fix them. But I can fix them because I've made so many. And I practice and practice and practice. Okay. So let's see. That's the boo-boo. Oh, Marlene, when are you going to do the next live chat? This is great. Hi, Marlene. I kind of miss you. I'm going to do it. This is Sunday, Wednesday. I was thinking about that. I think we should do them Wednesday and Sunday like this. And 1 o'clock on Wednesday works. It might be 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock. We got to figure that out. Maybe 10 o'clock on Wednesday, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Because I don't know. We'll talk about it. But I'm going to do them on Wednesday and Sunday. I like it. I think I'm able to get a lot more information to you. And it's kind of fun. Okay. Will we have another? Yes. This time on a Sunday works very well for me. So hello from Nova Scotia. Everyone, my first question for Suzanne is, what cast on do you recommend? It depends on what you're making. There's a lot of different cast-ons and they all have their purposes. So the default cast-on, the one, if a pattern says cast on 20 stitches, the default is long tail cast-on. That's the assumed default cast-on. If you're starting a lace project, you might want to stretch your cast-on. So it's good to learn about cast-ons. They all have their purposes. In this sweater, for the neck, we used a long tail cast on, or I did. Then that works good for this type of project. Okay. So Kathy Westridge. So for the first 5 inches of top pocket fabric, we are only attaching the neck edge purl bumps and not on the other side of the pocket. Correct. So the first 5 inches, you're having the open pocket. That's where you're going to put your hand in. Right? So here's my pocket. This edge is attached right here. This edge is open because that's where you're going to put your hand. This is where I attached, see the purl bumps? Well, you can't really see them. They're underneath here. They're underneath that edge where I attached the two fabrics. And it's actually 2 fabrics thick there where I picked up the button band, but you can't really tell. Oh, look you can see my increases on this side, my waist shaping. See them here? Right there. It's my waist shaping. Okay, let's see. Let's see. So 1 o'clock works good on Sunday. We might stay with that, and that's too bright for me. Okay, we stop at the bottom of the pocket. What if there's a crossing right at that point? Don't we want, yes, you'd make the crossing. Go ahead and make the crossing right at that point. Don't worry about where you are in your cable at the bottom of the pocket because we have the whole ribbing to make the cable come down to a nice finish. And it actually looks very nice if the cable comes down into the ribbing to finish. Don't worry about it. Trust me, it's going to work out. It's going to be okay. Just continue. And next week we'll talk all about don't start your ribbing because you'll be sorry because I'm going to show you some really cool things that you're going to want to try. Okay. Wow, you can cut and fix. Yes, I would rather cut and fix that cable. Those were big boo-boos. I would have to drop down the whole Intarsia panel to fix those. I'm not going to do that. Diana, please don't forget to read my pocket question, please. Diana, remind me what your question is. What was your question? Say it again, please. Okay, I'll give you a minute. I'm looking for it. How is that cable going to slant on the pocket? Oh, very observant. That's a great question. Okay. The way this cable slants on the pocket is because when we make the increases for the cable to slant, right, we have to make increases, right? To make the fabric wider. It's narrow here and wider here. In order to do that, we have to make increases. I made them right here along this line. That's a cool trick. Then the whole fabric leans this way. That causes the cable to turn and lean this way. Isn't that cool? That's a very cool trick to have in your bag. Okay, let's see. Scary to cut cables. I did watch the video where you did this, but it scares me. What you do if you have a big boo-boo like that you need to cut, knit a swatch with the boo-boo in it. Then cut the swatch. Don't cut your sweater. In fact, Marlene, who's on here, let's see, she's C. Repudia. Let's see. I'll find your comment, Diana, just a second. Okay, hold on, I cut something. I missed something. After the setup row on the pocket front, it says to do a row with make one. However, there are no bars to pick up. What do I do? You're going to pick up a bar on the fabric below. There's a bar to pick up. Just look more carefully. There is a bar. I live in this is grammar. What time zone does Suzanne live in? I live in the Pacific time zone, or UTC -8. I'm trying to adopt the new terminology, but I'll always say Pacific time zone. I'm in California. Libby Shorts, I don't get the pocket. I cannot picture where to put the corrugated and the increases. If you're going to do corrugated ribbing, you would just, I don't think you can do corrugated ribbing on the edge of the pocket. This particular pocket, you cannot do ribbing on the edge. It won't work. That's a different style of pocket. I'm sorry. Sorry. It's further up the list. I wonder if I can search by your name. If I hit on your name, does it tell me all your comments? Nope. Okay. Pacific time. Thank you. So I expected. So you're welcome. She's in Bakersfield. I'm in San Francisco. Yeah. And there's about 5 hours between Scott and I. He's in San Francisco. I'm in Bakersfield. And a lot of people think everything in California must be close together. That's 5 hours. That's like, if you're on the East Coast, that's several states away from each other. But we do get to see each other at Stitches. Yay. Who's going to Stitches West? I'm going to be there. So Libby Short, so I would do the corrugated regular and just do decreases after. You could try that. I would try it on a swatch, Libby, if you think that that's what you want to do. I would try working that on a swatch first, not on your sweater. The pocket will work just fine without a cable. Yes, it'll look lovely without a cable. Just leave the cable comments out, leave the cable compensation out, and just work the pocket. Let's see, Kathy. Yeah, Diana, I think it'd be easier if you retype my question was to make the pocket deeper but not wider. Could I just make the part after the diagonal deeper? Yes. So if you want the pocket wider but deeper, you want it deeper but not wider, you would make the 2 inches here longer. You would do that. So you could make it 3 inches if you want. It's your sweater. You can do whatever you want, and that's what I'm trying to teach you is how you can customize things. So if you want this is 2 inches. If you want it 2.5 inches, you can make it just work the lining a half inch longer and the cable front a half inch longer, and it'll work just fine. If you want it 2 inches deeper, just make both pieces an inch longer before you connect them. Okay. Let's see. Carol Corcoran, she says, no, she's not going to start the ribbing. She's just planning ahead. And I may put out more information about the ribbing during the week. You know how before we started the actual sweater, I gave you like preliminary things to work on? I might do that this week about the ribbing. I might give you some exercises to do, some things to swatch. So you can try it out this week before you actually start your ribbing, okay? Okay, here's Marlene. She's the one that's CRPURAVIDA2. Marlene, I will never forget this. I used to teach classes at my house, and we would have like 14, 16 people here and teaching these sweaters. And I taught this sweater twice, but I also taught little classes in between. Like one time we were learning how to cross cables without a cable needle and how to fix cables by dropping down. And she had a sweater that she just finished recently that is one of Alice Starmore's Aran sweaters. Was it Innismore? It might be Innismore that she did. And she had it almost done, but she had a big missed cross cable right in the front. And so I told her the night we were going to learn about cutting cables, I told her to bring it over. And everybody did their swatch, and then we practiced cutting the cable and the swatch. And then I said, go ahead and try it on your sweater now. So she did. She had it all lined up and ready to go. And then she cut it. And right when she cut, I said, oops. And you should have seen her. She about died. Oh my God. She was like totally freaked out. She had put so much work into that sweater, but I just did that as a joke. She was fine and it turned out perfect. Diana already asked her question again and I answered it. So thank you, everybody. Oh my goodness, Little Dollhouse Holland and stayed up just for this. It's now 2,300. I hope it was worth it for you. Thank you. And this says, S. Goldsmith, I'm definitely going to be at Stitches and can't wait to meet you. Okay, Mary E., can we talk about the sleeve next week as well? I don't think I'll be ready for bottom ribbing. This is Mary E., that's a really good statement. So if you're not ready for your bottom ribbing, you can just put all those stitches on hold on the bottom of the sweater. Just leave them on your needle or put them on waist yarn or something. And then you can go ahead and start the sleeves, yes. Yes, we can talk about that. You can skip the bottom ribbing until you finish the sleeves. And at that point, yes, you'll need to do the ribbing next because the last thing we do is the shawl collar. That's the last piece. And the bottom ribbing has to be completed prior to that. Marlene's laughing, yes. I'll never forget that. That was great. This is from Ronnie Dummy. Hi, Suzanne. In your finished sweater, does pocket go all the way deep to the ribbing or it stops where it is vertical seam to the lining? Okay, it goes to the ribbing. So let me put my hand in it. Okay, here's the pocket. Let me turn the light back on. Here's the pocket. So we have the diagonal portion here. And then the pocket continues going down. So when I put my hand in it, my hand goes all the way down here. Can you see my fingers wiggling? Right where the ribbing is. Where the ribbing is, that's the separation of the bottom of the pocket and the ribbing. So here's the bottom of the pocket. It's a lovely pocket. See, I can put my whole hand in there. That's how I determined the size. I used my hand. Put my hand over here and figured out how big of a pocket did I need to make to fit my hand. And I have long fingers. I'm a tall person, so I have long fingers. So, okay. Little dollhouse. Yes, more than worth it. Thanks. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I got to do this pocket first. Haha. I read through them and I'm confused. Maybe I just want to sit and try following them. If wrong, I can rip back. Have others started the pocket? Nobody's commented about that yet. I think people are still digesting it. But I can't wait to see the people working on their pockets. It's going to be very, very cool. Best part of the sweater is the pockets. Well, the ribbing is going to be pretty cool too. So I think I've answered everybody's question. Does anybody else have anything they want to say? We'll continue this bi-weekly thing as long as it works. As long as you guys show up and ask your questions, I can answer them. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving, peaceful, calm, good family time, no dissension. Don't talk politics at Thanksgiving. Avoid fights, just enjoy your family. That's what I'm going to do, and get plenty of knitting time in. And I hope you have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.